guys, so welcome to another video. I'm Nisana. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that had been requested on my other channel called dr.sebi, where someone was asking if I could share more about my journey towards veganism and how that might have affected my period. It took me almost 9 years in total to transition from being vegetarian, pescatarian, and then finally vegan. So when I became vegan, I remember it was in January of 2014. I was very ignorant on how to have a healthy body or how to eat healthy foods while being vegetarian, and I think that's something I changed when I became vegan. I made an effort to learn how to not just be vegan because it was aligned with my ethics, but also how to make sure I did it the most healthy way. And that also depends on my own experience, because what I thought was healthy for me and the changes I was witnessing in my own body. Before veganism, I think my period was kind of there. Like sometimes it would hurt, but it wasn't really a big annoyance. At least now I don't remember it as being a big annoyance, but it was there, and sometimes it was painful and sometimes it came and went just like that. But like I never had one of those periods where people say that they have periods where they literally, you know, oh, I'm on my period, I forgot. Like my period was always noticeable. Like I would feel I'm on my period. I would feel like even before my period started, I had like PMS signs, like feeling tired, drained, sluggish, all these words, and like just feeling so drained. And by the time I had my period, then maybe I would have cramps, heavy bleeding that will last too long. But like in the beginning, my period didn't start out like that when I started having my period. Like I remember when I was younger, it would usually be maximum 4 days, and by 4 I mean like that it's the last day before the 5th day you can go on with your life. But then later on it progressed and progressed to the point where I think it started out between 3 and 4 days of ending, right? But then later on I felt like it progressed, and sometimes I feel like it could go on like for 5-6 days before you can wear like underwear and not feel like anything will happen, right? So that for me has been a progression towards, I wouldn't say something ideal in that sense, but it's also important, of course, to know that your period does change throughout your life, because you change, your body changes throughout your life, maybe your environment, maybe your diet, and so on. And your period is not just something that happens in a vacuum of itself, but like it's a part of the holisticness of your life, and it's a reflection in a way to some degree of how your life is from a holistic perspective. That's why I think for me it became very important, at least where I am now, to approach my period from a holistic perspective. Okay, so when I became vegan, I did the awful mistake of doing it. Obviously it was winter in January and it gets really cold here, and plus I thought, okay, if I'm gonna be vegan, I wanted to do a raw cleanse first. So I did like almost 16 days. I was supposed to do a whole month, but after I gave up. I was like, after 16 days, I was freezing constantly, I was eating cold food, I was vegan, there was like too many changes at once, so I overdid it. It was too much, and obviously that affected my period as well, because my period was unbearable, and I was like, what is this? Why is it so awful? Like I had been listening, of course, to other people who had introduced me to the health part of veganism, also the ethical part. Like Freely the Banana Gal, when I started, was one of the people who really influenced me to feel like, okay, all these new things, new aspects of being a vegan. But like I and her talking about how her period was almost non-existent, but it was there, but she barely felt it. And for me, it was the opposite. My first period on the vegan diet was awful. It was so awful. And I was like, what is this? This makes no sense. Thankfully, I think if I had become vegan just for health reasons, that would be a great or big point for me to feel like, okay, screw this. So thankfully, that's not the only reason I became vegan, or the biggest reason I became vegan. So when that happened, I was like, oh wow, so I'm just gonna maybe have to live with bad periods, but like that would really suck, and I had to take medicine sometimes because it was that bad. And usually I always went for obviously the alternative methods, like maybe drinking teas, warm bottles. I've never really liked pills. I'm not a pill popper. So if I do take pills, it has to be serious. And sometimes, often in my period, I had to take pills. So it was really serious. It was like I literally couldn't get out of bed, or I couldn't eat until the pain subsided. And sometimes it would be so bad I couldn't even swallow my pills. I'd have to throw them up. So I had really, really bad, almost traumatizing periods. So, okay, then the first few months, I would say my period didn't improve. In fact, I felt like it got worse. And on top of that, my acne was acting up, so my skin was getting bad as well. So that didn't help at all. And then, like, along the way, like, I was kind of feeling like, you know what, I think my body's just gonna get used to it. But I felt like I kept feeling like I was doing something wrong. Obviously, today I understand that with the holistic perspective, which is something I really want to talk about a lot on this channel. The holistic perspective is that, of course, my period is not just what happens that one day, or those 4 days or 1 week in my life, but it's kind of like what has happened all the way leading up to those days, and even like maybe even months before. So our body is reacting to all those things. At least that's what has been my understanding now. And so for me, I had to have a healthier lifestyle day to day, and it wasn't just enough to eat right. I had to work out right. I had to take care of my body to make sure that my vitamins were being met, my hormones were balanced, my minerals, all this stuff. Your body needs so much more, needs all of these things to be as balanced as possible for you to have enjoyable periods. I do not really think it's natural that we have such aggravating periods. I think it's a symptom of our lifestyle and how disconnected it is from nature, or what is organic, or what is real nutritious food, or even more holistic ways of living life. And especially as women, our bodies are very sensitive, so I do believe that all these things affect us differently than men, because we get to see the changes in our lives almost monthly that give us, me and my sister, we called it a receipt of the month. So we say, how's your receipt this month, you know, like, did you do well? So I've been like trying to monitor my period through those changes and through the ways I've changed my lifestyle, a less problem focused solution, but a more holistic based solution. I think in the last 4 months, my period has actually improved. I've made a few changes in my life that I feel like have really contributed to a much better period, that for me at least. And of course, always remember, all bodies are very, very diverse, and what works for me might not actually work for you, because that might not be your solution, your specific solution, or even problem. I think our bodies should be our responsibility, not just your physician or just other people, but you should be the person who knows your body the most, the person who knows how to take care of your body the most, because your body is yours for a reason, right? It lives with you the most, not some physician or some gynecologist. So, and I'm not saying, of course, avoid these people, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying you should be as invested in your health as those people should be. So these are the things I did that I feel like have really improved it, to the point where now when I do have my period, it's not like I have to stay in bed the whole time. I can do normal stuff. It might be bad the first day, but like not really bad that I'm pushed to take pills. So that for me already is an improvement. And on the second, third day, I can do normal stuff. I can even work out. And before that was like, I couldn't imagine working out on my period. I was like, I just want to lay here and not die. So the fact that I can even have the inspiration or desire to work out, that for me is a testimony of what the last 4 months have done for me. So first of all, I started sweating more. I made it an intent to sweat more like during the week. So before, I had this plan of working out Monday to Friday every morning for at least 30 minutes, where my intention is to sweat. And the reason I did this, again, because I want to take a holistic approach, is because when I was home in Uganda visiting, I noticed that our environment can be quite kind of humid, which is a good thing, because your body sweats naturally. Your body releases things throughout the day. Your body's breathing throughout the day. Whereas where we live now is kind of the air is a bit more dry. And so in that sense, and also already for me, it's really hard to sweat for me as a person. So I knew I had to make an effort. If I was going to balance my body, I had to give it a way of getting rid of toxins, which would have been the normal way for my body in its natural habitat, which is a more humid place. At least that's where my ancestors came from, right? So I was like, okay, so I try weekly to make an effort to sweat it out at least 4 times a week, where I do like 20 to 40 minutes of workout. And I can either do cardio or strength training, which is also good for balancing your hormones. So I try to do those things. And then on top of that, I recently started following dr.sebi, which is someone I'll talk about more in another video. But I've been following his nutritional guidelines, which is like to eat alkaline food, because that's also the food that was made for us to eat. He believes that this is food that was made for us to believe. I really have great respect for the man, and I feel like, okay, it wouldn't hurt to try, and I've tried everything else. That has made great improvement in my body, and that has given me at least even more calmer periods than I had before. But that one, I can say that maybe it's also an aftermath of everything else, because I've only been in that one for like 1.5 months now, going soon on our 2nd month. But that has been great for me. And I think combined with the other thing, like, yeah, working out more often, changing my diet, being more holistic in the way I approach stuff, like making sure I get enough sleep, I get enough water, I get enough my emotional needs met as well. I really feel like that has to do with it too. I don't believe in this separatism of effects that affect our well-being. I think it's a combination of everything. And so if I want to improve my life, I have to look at improving all aspects of it. So those are the 3 main things I've done, especially I think following as much as I can Dr. Sebi's nutritional guidelines. And we try to eat it like Monday to Friday, and then on the weekend we might have snacks. It's like almost like we do like 60-75% of our diet. And it's a way for us to maybe to slowly transition, because we felt like, oh my god, like we're already vegans, we feel like we're already like, you know, we're already inconvenient to other people sometimes when we go out and we're eating as vegans. We don't want to say, oh, now we can't have that and that even though it's vegan. So we're trying to make space to, you know, be purists, but like to take it from approach of like balance, as much balance as we can. So I think that is something that has really made an effort. Had a great impact on the changes I've experienced on my period being calmer, but also my skin has started clearing up. I do not get the bigger pimples I used to have more, which were almost like coming back to back. Now I don't get them as much. If I do, I get like really small ones here and there, but that's it. So, but for me, that already is a great improvement. So those are the few things I have done, but I really like to share with you that your body is your kingdom, basically, your queendom, whatever you want to call it. And it's your responsibility as much as you can to get to know it, to become friends with it, especially also your period. That's another thing I changed. I stopped seeing my period as something awful, like a curse, like something that's here to stop my life and ruin my day. Like now I even see it as something that reminds me to slow down, something that reminds me to take time for myself, to honor my feminine side and my womanhood, and I appreciate that. So again, like making it not an enemy, I think that also helps, because it doesn't bring it with such anxiety that I grew up having. Because, you know, like my period, I felt like ruined my childhood. I never learned to appreciate or welcome it. There wasn't that effort made in my family to really understand it from a bigger perspective than, well, I guess you're a woman now, here's some products, good luck with your life. So I think that's also changing my perspectives, and the way I see my period has really helped as well. So anyway, that's what I can share with you guys. I hope that is of benefit, and obviously if you guys have some other tips and ideas, especially for people who have really bad and heavy periods and you want to help them, like, I don't know, if you have some tips that have worked for you guys, please do share in the comment section. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Bye guys.